What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Force Strategy Gaming and to some more StarCraft 2 commentary. Today we will be watching a series between Mouse's MaNa and ESC's GoOdy. Down over here in the lower left-hand position, we've got GoOdy as our purple Terran player, and over here in the lower right spot, the green Protoss player is going to be MaNa. I do commentate quite a few games between these two players. It seems like they always end up getting their games up on that replay site that I check all the time, so not a bad thing though, as their games do tend to be pretty good. We can see we are here on the map, Tal'Darim Malter, and again, this is going to be a series, so there will be more than just one game here between these two. MaNa drops his pylon, goes straight back to mining, and it looks like over here we will be seeing that supply depot nice and close there to the resource line. And the reason for both these players building that initial supply building so close to their main base is just because they want to keep their workers mining as long as possible early on, trying to get a very, very nice and strong economy going. The further away from that nexus you go, the further away from the resource line you go, obviously the less time your workers have mining in the early stage of the game. And then obviously at some point you make that decision to move out with a scout, and neither player has done that yet, but we should be seeing that sometime soon. And there you go, actually. MaNa, after dropping his gateway, decides to then immediately move out with his probe. Let's see where he will be checking. Will it be lower left or upper right first? It will be lower left, so he will be scouting out GoOdy nice and early here. And at the same time, too, we do have GoOdy moving out with his scout, and he is checking lower right. So luckily, both players managing to scout their opponent right away, and while completely bypassing that probe, the probe not at the tower wasn't able to spot that SCV moving on by. So very nice there. Luckily, again, for both players, getting a nice early scout. They will be knowing in the early stages of the game exactly what their opponent is doing. As we can see, MaNa moving into the main base here of GoOdy, spotting no gas. Now he knows, all right, will be a 1-Rax expand build. So I then almost expect now MaNa to, after dropping the Cybernex core, to actually hold off on that second Vespene geyser, hold off on getting that second assimilator, and then just go for a Nexus himself so he can get up a nice early expansion, because right now he knows, again, there's a 1-Rax expand coming just because he spotted no gas. And he is getting the second assimilator right now. Very interesting. Certainly could still do a 1-Rax expand. Going a little gas heavy, we'll let him get some sentries early on, but we'll see what he ends up deciding to do. The other alternative, of course, is that instead of expanding, he could try to just stay on one base and push out. That's another option as well. And look at this GoOdy being a huge pain in the butt. And actually, did he scout this? No, he hasn't seen this yet. So GoOdy really going to be delaying the expansion for MaNa. And you can see how he stopped building that engineering bay just before it finished. And what this allows him to do is that once MaNa starts engaging it, he'll actually be able to cancel it off. And there you go. This is going to throw a huge kink in MaNa's plans here. He has to wait until that first stalker works that down, and that's going to take a while. So a very, very nice early harass here from GoOdy, severely delaying the expansion of MaNa. Let's see what MaNa decides to do as a result. We do have that sentry follow-up, and that was indicative of that second gas nice and early. This, of course, allows him to afford those sentries, being 100 Vespene each. Very expensive. And it looks like, actually, MaNa will just be going for an expansion up here, trying to get a hidden expansion up in the upper right spot, instead of waiting until this engineering bay ends up getting canceled. So there you go, MaNa. We'll be trying to hide that up there. It's going to be very difficult, though, because if GoOdy does scout that, MaNa's going to have a very hard time defending that. It'll be very, very difficult. He can move his forces over here to defend, of course, but then all of a sudden his main base would be incredibly vulnerable. SCV scout that was tucked away in the lower left-hand spot has continued to move through for some scouting, spotting that second gateway before he gets taken out. MaNa will be dropping it another gateway. So opening up 1-Rax expand, the expansion of course being up here, and then moving into two more gateways. One gate expand into two more gateways. I wonder how many times I've called these barracks this game. It does happen from time to time. All right, GoOdy here with the bunker for early game stalker defense, and any possible aggression that he may be seeing from MaNa. Also, of course, he wasn't sure if he was going to be seeing a 4-gate or anything. He obviously knows that there's no expansion over here, but he has yet to scout over in this position. So we'll see if that happens. And ooh, MaNa transferring over these workers. Very interesting. I'm surprised he didn't check this first, just to make sure that GoOdy didn't have a scout there that could have actually caught those probes in transit. That could have been a huge mistake if there was a scout here, and I think that Xel'Naga would have given him just enough vision to see those probes moving over. I mean, we'll be destroying these destructible rocks over here, allowing him the opportunity to expand at some point in the future over there. We have those 3 gateways now turned into warp gates. Robotics is up. Let's take a look over here at what GoOdy is doing. Looks like it will be bio heavy, as he's got a third and fourth racks in construction right now. Hasn't worked up to factory yet, so we will be seeing just early game Marine Marauders. He's getting the upgrades, concussive shell, stim pack. Maybe seeing a stim timing push here from GoOdy, as he will be severely delaying his tech by holding off on getting that factory a little while longer, as he will just be churning out of these 4 racks over here. All right, so very nice saturation over here from MaNa. And again, he's almost done breaking down these rocks. We will be seeing that first observer come on through, and we'll be pushing on into GoOdy's base to get some scouting. And actually, here comes a second observer as well. Don't expect too much more. 2 to 3 is what you will see at most. 3 is kind of pushing it. A lot of times at the pro level, you'll just see about 2 observers in play. I'm surprised that that second one will be rallied over there, but I guess he wants both those observers over there. That's pretty interesting, to be perfectly honest with you. A lot of times you want to hold a third observer. Wow, already MaNa he's just dedicated to get some massive scouting going. Speaking of the scouting, GoOdy moving across the map with his SCV scout is about to walk right by this nexus, and then all of a sudden we will see MaNa in that tight spot that I mentioned before. Very difficult. He's gonna have a hard time dealing with this. There's no question about that, because what's gonna happen is GoOdy, he's just gonna push out. And he can walk straight towards this nexus, and let's say, for argument's sake, that MaNa diverts all of his forces to this nexus to defend it. Then the bio can just circumvent that and walk straight into the main, and then all of a sudden there's just a giant headache for MaNa. This is the problem with trying to go for these hidden expansions, that if they get scouted, you can be in a lot of trouble. Alright, so we're going to have to keep an eye on what MaNa ends up seeing and what he knows to scout. Well, taking a look at the vision over here, he's got some nice eyes as to what's going on. He knows it's bio heavy, and there you go. Observer Scout sees the bio move into that upper right. Now let's see what he decides to do with this. He does have the bulk of his forces back here, and just a small group over here threatening that expansion and allowing him to push onto the main if he deems it necessary. I think it's going to depend on what he ends up seeing here in the center of the map. There's a scan. He spots the forces. That's something that he can certainly contend with. And look at this, MaNa nowhere near this. Now he has made that transition into Colossus. 1 in play. He's got a second coming through. I'm still not sure if he has enough. It's really going to come down to how those force fields end up getting landed. GoOdy will be waiting to stim until the engagement comes, and there it is. Guardian Shield get placed down. There's some force fields. Bio trying to get that Colossus, getting up pretty close. He's got some guys flanking from the backside. Still hasn't dropped the Colossus though. There it is. Even with that complete force field surround, he drops the Colossus, takes care of the rest of the Protoss army. And wow, actually doing pretty good with those Guardian Shields. He's continuing to do some work, warping in from the backside. And unbelievably, MaNa mops it up. Excellent defense there, trapping the forces with those force fields, allowed that Colossus to stay alive a little while longer, bought him some time for reinforcements, and let him take care of that push, and GoOdy really didn't do too much damage. Sure, he killed a bunch of units, but he was going for that expansion and not hitting that expansion. He really dedicated most of his forces to that, so that's a little scary. Now we do have a starport coming on through, reactor on that factory that will of course be for those double medevacs. Another racks coming on through, so sitting on a total of 6 racks at the moment. We'll be churning out those units. We'll be seeing a counterattack here from MaNa though. He does have a third base coming on through. The fact that he was able to defend that is absolutely tremendous. They're about even in terms of resources lost, but again, we noted the fact that GoOdy is behind in tech. We have Colossus in play, and GoOdy has just now gotten out a starport to start producing Vikings as well as medevacs. And with MaNa already churning out this Colossus, plus getting a third base up, he could be in a very strong spot. He will just be holding the center of the map at the moment. He does have those 3 observers chilling out here and just getting full scouts as to what's going on. Look at that, he's got full eyes on everything. Checking the main, he knows the production facilities, he knows what's coming out, he knows when a push is coming from that angle, and he also knows when this expansion is getting dropped. So very nice vision there for our buddy MaNa. Let's see what GoOdy has got going on. Now, will he be going with medevac first? Let's take a look. I didn't manage to spot it. No, it is Viking first. He's got no medevacs in play. He's just getting Vikings to try to deal with those Colossus. I just wanted to see if he was going medevac first, just in case he decided to actually do some drop harass, but it doesn't look like that's happening. He'll just be bulking up his forces, and he's actually got a pretty sizable army at the moment. In terms of army supply, GoOdy is slightly ahead of MaNa, as MaNa has diverted resources to getting this expansion up and running, as well as getting those extra workers. Take a look at the worker count. They're about even at the moment, but spending resources on the Nexus plus those 2 assimilators may be what is causing him to be slightly behind at the moment. Just getting that thermal lance upgrade. Here comes another engagement, stemmed up out, pushing forward, plus those Vikings doing a lot of damage to that Colossus. However, both Colossus are still alive. Zealots forcing away the Biostalkers, taking out the last of those Vikings. Numbers are getting pretty small though. Another warp in though from that pylon. More Zealot reinforcement, and again, MaNa with a great defense there in that engagement. And now he's in a very strong spot as he starts to take advantage of these extra resources from this expansion. That's kind of the critical point there. What happens is you drop an expansion, you spend the resources there on these buildings, and you're momentarily behind in army size. But if you can just bypass that time safely, if you can live through that, then all of a sudden you're going to start to get that economic advantage. We'll take a look at it here. You can see MaNa is pulling ahead in terms of gas. He's still slightly behind for minerals, and that is going to be due to these mules here going to town. But you can see GoOdy is getting mined out right now of both of his bases, and he's really going to need another expansion up very shortly. He should have one building or built already. Doesn't look like he does. He's still on 2 bases, and he doesn't have a third coming on through. Ooh, this is risky here for GoOdy. As MaNa continues to get the strong economy, he's actually even coming out with a 4th base. That's going to be very, very difficult. Let's take a look at upgrades. We got weapons and armor level 2 coming on through here, as well as the Charge Zealot upgrade and Templar Archives. So working his way up into high Templar and Archons. GoOdy right now sitting at 1-1. Doesn't even have 2-2 upgrades coming out yet because he is just now getting his armory. It's not looking good right now for GoOdy, my friends, but we do have another engagement coming through. Guardian Shield goes down again. There's the scan from GoOdy, just spotting the forces there of MaNa. We're going to be seeing a lot of Guardian Shields come on through, and hopefully some force fields here from MaNa. Let's see how this engagement ends up going. Vikings pulling forward to try to snipe down this Colossus. Some nice force fields, allowing those Zealots to get on up on some of that bio. There's still enough sentries to maintain some more Guardian Shields and some additional force fields. Bio's still alive, but with no more Vikings, it's a little scary here. Bio's pulling forward, trying to snipe down this Colossus. However, Stalkers shooting them as they walk by. And the Colossus live. We got some reinforcements. Zealots coming on through. 1 Colossus gets dropped. Zealots should provide enough of the buffer, though, for that second Colossus. And once again, MaNa survives the engagement and push from GoOdy. And as time goes on, things are getting worse and worse for GoOdy as he's still just on 2 bases. Now let's take another look at that economy, and MaNa pulling ahead nice and strong. This is really due to these engagements that have been going very well for MaNa, just positioning wise, Guardian Shields and force fields. Things have been going really well for him. And as time goes on and he maintains that stronger economy, it just looks better and better. Pulling down with the SCBs as GoOdy knows he is in trouble and he needs to try to do something here. He's kind of just going all for it right now. We do have a high Templar in play. However, Sonic Storm is not yet researched. Charge Zealots will be making quick work of some of those SCVs. Stammed up Bio snipes down that Colossus. The push continues. Hopefully MaNa gets some reinforcements soon. GoOdy's got a strong force that he's pushing up with, though. We get some more Charge Zealots getting warped in. And that other Colossus joins the fray. GoOdy's kind of SOL at the moment, I think. I really don't think he's got a chance. See what happens, though. He still has a lot of bio, and he can still certainly do a lot of damage. He's going to be pushing forward to snipe down that Colossus. Very close. He doesn't get it. He'll be pulling forward one more shot, and there you go. Stalkers and Zealots continue to try to work through this bio over here. GoOdy doesn't really have anything else going on. GoOdy realizing that that is it. Calls the GG. What a game. Alright guys, that was game number 1 between MaNa and GoOdy. Ends up going to MaNa as he's able to just defend himself and maintain that strong economy with some nice engagements. Again, Guardian Shields and Force Fields really helping him buy some space for those Colossus and keep them alive, and that let him keep up his expansions, in which with that economy advantage he was able to pull through and get the win. Alright guys, that was game number 1. Game number 2 coming in just a moment. As always, if you like the content, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Keep watching and keep owning.